Every film has a story to tell, or at least it should. But others, like this one, guide you through that story. Dead Man is a poetic metaphysical journey, directed by Jim Jarmusch in 1995. It isn't about cowboys, or gunfights, or justice on the frontier. It's about what happens when everything familiar is gone, and all you can do to cope is stay in constant motion. How does a man react when he has no choice but to face his own mortality? This is a Western, yeah, but it isn't John Wayne riding into town with a six-shooter and a score to settle. This is a funeral march. This is a film about the art of dying, and what nobody teaches you along the way. When you first watch Dead Man, it feels like a misfire. It meanders, it mutters, it refuses the shape of most movies. The film doesn't want to hold your hand. It wants you to wander, lost like Bill Blake, who arrives in the West thinking he has a job in the future, and quickly finds he has neither. He's shot, wounded, marked, and he begins to drift. Not just through the Wild West, but through layers of myth, memory, and meaning. The characters he meets feel less like people and more like omens. He's not being saved. He's eternally being propelled forward, and not allowed the luxury of looking back. Jarmusch shot the film in black and white, a choice that isn't aesthetic but essential. This is a world without color, without certainty, without resurrection. This is a world where we question, is it even alive? Cinematographer Robert Mitchum makes the forest like a cathedral. The sky is pale and unforgiving. Firelight flickers like memory. The town of Machine is the Old West version of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sin runs wild, and heathens pollute every saloon, every alley. Every frame is cold, quiet, already rotting. It's beautiful in a way that reminds you you're not supposed to be here. Thematically and aesthetically, there are obvious comparisons to Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal. More on that later. The character development is what I love most. Before I understood the deeper, more spiritual themes, it was Johnny Depp's betrayal of William Blake that really caught my attention.
Do you know my poetry?
He starts the film confused, naive, soft. But the deeper he moves into the wilderness, the more desperate he gets, the more capable he becomes. His instincts come alive. He stops thinking and starts acting, or reacting. He kills, he survives. He begins to understand. And it's only as he nears death that he finds peace. There's a moment where Gary Farmer's character, Nobody, says, "It's sometimes better to be known by others than to know yourself." Blake, by the end, becomes known, not as a man, as a legend. But legends don't get to live long, they get to live forever. There's something unusual about the performances in Dead Man. Nobody seems to be acting, they're all existing, caught mid-thought, mid-revelation. As if the world was moving through them, not the other way around. Johnny Depp gives one of his quietest performances here. There's no swagger, no caricature, just stillness. His William Blake is a poet without a poem. He never plays the transformation. He lets it overtake him. And Gary Farmer as Nobody is a revelation. He's funny, wise, haunting. He speaks in riddles and truths. His present grounds the film in mysticism, yet he never feels like a fantasy. He's Blake's mirror. A man also misunderstood, also mythologized. Farmer brings warmth to the film's coldness. And then there are the ghosts of the frontier, the strange men Blake meets along the way. Robert Mitchum, in his final role, plays Dickinson, the iron-hearted owner of the town of Machine. His performance is dry, regal, and terrifying, like the devil running a railroad. Feels less like a man and more like fate in a three-piece suit. Billy Bob Thornton, Iggy Pop, and Jared Harris play a trio of bizarre backwoods bounty hunters. They're cartoonish, grotesque, hilarious. Like demons who got bored in hell and decided to cosplay as men. Iggy Pop in a bonnet, sipping tea, quoting scripture. It shouldn't work, but in Dead Man it does. These roles aren't just color, they're commentary. They embody the absurd violence and perverse morality of the Old West. Each performance adds to the film's purgatorial tone. Strange, dreamlike, never quite real. The cast isn't trying to sell you a story, they're inviting you into a vision. I'm a big fan of westerns, though not a traditional western. This is my favorite. I didn't realize at first that I was watching a man die. That gunshot at the start wasn't a plot point. It was a death sentence. And the rest of the film, that was the slow letting go. Dead Man taught me that death doesn't always come in a flash. And sometimes in dying, a person becomes whole. Dead Man isn't about good and evil. It isn't about justice. It's about crossing over. Slowly, quietly, with your eyes wide open. Jarmusch gave us a strange, slow, gritty poem about becoming something else. Again, I'm bringing up The Seventh Seal because the journeys are so similar, both poetically told, framed in the skeleton of an epic. And the film Nobody, the outcast Native American who becomes Blake's unlikely guide. He's the equivalent to death in The Seventh Seal. He keeps insisting that our protagonist is not just a man named William Blake, but the William Blake.
Is your name really William Blake?
At first, it's a joke, a mistake, a running gag. But as Blake wanders deeper into the frontier, bleeding, hallucinating, transforming, the identity begins to feel earned, or maybe faded. And the real William Blake, the English mystic, the poet, lives in the soul of this movie.
Some are born to sweet delight. Some are born to endless night.
That's the real Blake. That line floats through the film like a curse. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. Blake's work was obsessed with opposites, innocence and experience, heaven and hell, body and soul. And this movie is those opposites made flesh. A man becomes a legend, a killer becomes a spirit, a life ends but a myth begins. Nobody, the character, speaks Blake's words, and in doing so he teaches William Blake how to die. One interpretation of Dead Man suggests that William Blake is not just on a physical journey through the American West, but traversing the realms of purgatory. From the opening train scene, there's an esoteric quality that permeates the film. The characters he meets and the surreal dialogues they share hint at a spiritual reality beneath the surface. Consider Robert Mitchum's character, a devilish figure symbolic of earthly corruption and moral rot. His town, his empire, is the hellish machine built to trap and grind down souls. When Blake is shot, it's a rapture, a spiritual awakening. His physical body becomes irrelevant. From that moment on, he walks the road between life and death. Nobody becomes his guardian, his Virgil. With riddles, dreams, and folklore, he helps Blake confront the burdens that keep him tethered. Their bond is the heart of the film, and the outlaws sent to hunt Blake. They're not just bounty hunters, they're echoes of damnation trying to drag him back into the machine.
You three are supposed to be the finest killers of men and engines in this here half of the world.
But Blake slips past them, and in the final scene, as he drifts off in the canoe, we see the truth. His body remains, but his soul is already gone. So yes, the title of this video is a pun, but it's also the truth. What nobody taught me about dying is that death isn't an ending.
You're just as likely to find your own grave